Oh, hello. I guess we're doing this then. Welcome to my booktube channel and my very first video. Please enjoy. Hopefully we're going to read some good books together. And today we are reading pirate books. So I love pirates. I've been reading about pirates for a long time. I am part of a pirate book club with my friends. And I have two books today that I was inspired to read after I visited the Greenwich Maritime Museum yesterday and saw their new pirate exhibition. So I am going to talk about that, show you some clips from that, and we're going to read two pirate books together, and I will give you my reviews, and I'll also suggest some other pirate books that went down a treat with my friend's pirate book club. So if that all sounds good, please enjoy the video and see you on the other side. So hello, I am a brand new YouTuber, and in case you couldn't tell that I was new via my lack of polish and lack of comfort talking to the camera and general newness at all of it, then you should also know that I recorded for a full 20 minutes before realising I'd forgotten to put my microphone on. So that's the real kind of newness you are getting. But hopefully that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to have some good conversations, because whereas I'm not knowledgeable at filming, I am definitely knowledgeable about books. And I have been reading for a very long time. I was reading probably about between 50 and 100 books a year. In fact, now probably 120 to 140 books a year. But I've been doing that pretty much since the age of 15, and I'm in my late 30s now. So I've read a lot. I've read a lot of classics, a lot of genre fiction, a lot of big books, small books, queer books, diverse books, and I really think that I have something I can talk about, and I really hope you do too, because what I want from this is to build a community. So if that sounds in any way interesting, then I really hope you'll join in, comment, let me know what you're reading, etc., etc. But there's no point begging you for engagement when I haven't given you anything yet. I haven't shown what I've got to offer. So I'm going to be talking about the books I'm going to be reading today. And you may say, hey, if you're part of a pirate book club, what are you reading pirate books away from the club for? Aren't you going to essentially be reading something the club will want to read? No. These books were ones that had already been blackboard. Basically, no one wanted to read them because at least one person in the group had already read them, so it wasn't new for everyone. So these were very much books that anyone can read any time, and hopefully they're going to be good. So I am going to be reading two books for this video. It's going to be vanishingly rare that I ever have the books to physically show you and hold up to the camera, because I am not really a physical book reader. I have a Kobo and I have a digital book collection, which I keep separate to Kobo, but I basically organise and throw my energy into making that collection perfect and secure and safe and organised, and I can search, I can do whatever I need, which is probably quite boring for for booktube, but it is the way I read. I also listen to a lot of audiobooks. I do have some physical books, which I'm looking over to my bookcase as if for moral support. It's just over there. But it's only 2 shelves of to-be-read books, and then the rest are a mixture of sort of ones that are very meaningful for me, or just ones that I will be giving away at some point soon. I don't tend to keep books for very long after I've read them, unless I truly, truly love them, and not having it around will be deeply sad. So yeah, I have some issues around having too many possessions and having too much stuff. So I don't tend to have, I don't tend to just keep books for the sake of it. which does mean for you there won't be as many exciting bookcase tours, and although there won't be me standing in front of my perfectly ordered, beautiful bookcase. So sorry, you may eventually get to see the slightly messy, deranged ordering system that I have. Sorry, something in my eye. But yes, so the fact that these two are physical books is rare, and also nice for me because, like I say, I like to get rid of books once I've read them. So getting rid of two things off my shelf is very pleasing to me. Don't think for a minute I don't hoard books. My digital to be read list is truly horrifying, and one of the things that I will hopefully be doing on this channel is working to limit my book purchases for a little while. At least not stop them because they make me happy, but get them under control. But that's for another day. Today we're talking pirate books. So the first one I will be reading is Pirate Women, which is here, 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 here. I'm just holding it up in the vague hope it's in the right place. But yes, so it's by Laura Sook Duncombe, and it's a non-fiction on the history of women and piracy, including the big female pirate names. Your Anne Bonnets, your Mary Reads, the lady from China, Chengi Sao, I think. Yeah. So yes, basically this is a non-fiction just covering a lot of that, and I'm excited to read it as a lover of historical non-fiction. It's also available on Audible, Audible Plus, so I will be sort of having that on as well while I do other things. It's only available for I think another 10 days, so I do need to get this done soon rather than later. Also, I just think the cover's really cool. That's really fun color-wise, isn't it? Anyway, so that's that. It's only 230 pages, so hopefully nice, easily, and will be done quite quickly. Then, slightly more chunky beast, Running Close to the Wind by Alexandra Rowland. Here. I'll figure it out eventually. But yes, this isn't necessarily my usual thing. I'm not a big romantasy reader. I like romance, I like fantasy, but in both cases, I have very niche tastes. I like very specific elements, which, as I read more of those books, you'll hear about. But it's very rare that romantasy marries those two in a way that I enjoy. I will give it a go. If the concept of the book appeals to me, then I'm always up for reading it. But yeah, I did that with Alexandra Rowland's previous book, which is A Taste of Iron and Gold, Gold and Silver, something and something. A Taste of Metal and Metal. It will be on the screen, so you will see the correct title. I bought that on sale, and then I sort of read it on a whim one day because I was in the mood for a kind of queer romance with a fantasy tinge. So I picked it up, and I loved it. It was so much fun. I often find one of the issues I have with modern romance is that publishers and some authors tend to think that you love tropes for the sake of the tropes. Which, as someone who grew up reading fan fiction, that's not the case. The trope, you may like that type of trope, but what you care about is seeing your two special little people going through that trope. And if you don't care about the two special little people who are doing it, the trope itself means nothing. That's banks assuming that you absolutely love ATMs because you're always using ATMs, when what you really care about is the access those ATMs give you to your cash. So I often find that for authors who maybe aren't as familiar with fan fiction in general, or who have assumed that we're going to love characters as much as they do, for example, they often find, they throw these tropes in and expect that we're going to love it, and we don't always, because if you don't care about the characters, you're just not going to care about the situations they're in. But the previous book, the Taste of that nailed it. Like, it built up the characters so slowly, built up the relationships, and then it was probably only about halfway into a fairly chunky book that then the tropes started coming in thick and fast, by which point you fell over them. I was eating it up with a spoon, I won't lie to you. I loved it. I'm a little bit mad that there doesn't seem to be a sequel on the horizon, because that is a book that a sequel would go down an absolute treat. So I was a little bit sad, but Running Close to the Wind is the next book Alexandra Rowland has published, and my friend gave me this because she read it. That's why we're not reading it as part of the book club. She read it and she basically said, "Oh, it's definitely one you're going to enjoy, but it's quite different to A Taste of Gold and Silver, Gold and Iron, etc., etc." So I'm quite intrigued as to how different it's going to be. So the main character, Avra, is a former field agent for the Ministry of Intelligence in a fantasy world, and they've stolen something, and are now on the run with this knowledge, hoping that it will be very valuable. And they have escaped onto a pirate ship, which is crewed, manned by a crew they used to run with, including the captain, who is their ex. And it's about them working together to try and use this valuable information and reconnect. So I'm very hopeful of it being, sexy and fun, and hopefully a bit of a fantasy romp as well. I can only hope. I don't think I'm going to have an issue with the quality of the writing, just simply because I liked it previously. So those are the two I'm going to read in this book. Bear with me. I'll report back with my findings a little bit later. And so, yeah, I just, you may have seen some clips from the pirate exhibition at the Greenwich Maritime Museum. I really had a good time there. I mean, it was just nice to be hanging out with my friends, quite honestly. I've used to live in London, and then I've just moved out of London 6 months ago, back to an area I grew up in, and I bought a place. So it's all it's a little difficult, not being as close to my friends as I once was. And equally, I'm still working in London, so I'm still there, but it's not quite as easy. So going and spending a day doing that with my friends was really fun, and dressing up as, in pirate gear a little bit. And we did a picnic, which is what you would have seen at the end of that video. We did a picnic in the Greenwich Park. And yeah, the exhibition itself was okay. I think it felt very much like the museum had gone, let's get all of our pirate stuff together and just set it out. And it felt a little unbalanced. So there was loads of stuff about fictional pirates. They had, costumes and things from Pirates of the Caribbean. They had copies of Treasure Island, etc. and then like the actual sort of meat of the history of piracy was a little bit more sporadic, which was a shame, because like I know about fictional pirates. I don't know as much about the history of them. And getting to see some genuine things was what I was there for, but it definitely had some very interesting things that I'd never seen before, and I actually thought I just paused because someone outside sounded like they're chopping wood, which is not what happens around here. I'm in a flat. Anyhow, yeah, there was a bit at the end about modern piracy, and which is it's not fun and not cool and not clever. Modern piracy is a very bad thing, but it was a really interesting insight into that, and I felt that if they wanted to do something different, they could have really done something a bit more with that. But no, it definitely wasn't a bad exhibition. I really enjoyed it. I always enjoy going to Greenwich because it's very pretty. And the weather held for the picnic. It was great. Yeah. But onto that, because those people who are there are part of that book club, I thought I'd also discuss a little bit of the books that we have really enjoyed, because whatever I think of these books that I'm reading for this video, then you'll leave with some good suggestions. So the first one is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This video has taught me that I really struggle to say the word emerald. Yeah, did it, nailed it, excellent, well done me. Yeah, so Tress of the Emerald Sea was my first Brandon Sanderson. I obviously know that I think Mistborn series is huge, and I do intend to read it based on how much I enjoyed this book. And I did have since read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and I really enjoyed that as well. So this was a great start into that world, which is the story of Tress, whose love interest goes missing and sets off on a quest across this magical sea to find him. And it's a really different world. It feels so fantastical. The magic is so different, but it's also so it's like old school children's literature. It's like reading Narnia for the first time again, or if you really like Terry Pratchett, which I do, the Tiffany Aching series, it's very similar to that in its own way. Yeah, it just really, really was a romp, and it felt like just that little bit of retro, stepping back in time to being a young kid enthralled by a concept again. So I absolutely loved it. The artwork was very pretty too, and we all had a great time. And then the second one is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi, which I'm sure you will have heard about if you've been on booktube for any length of time whatsoever, because it was a fairly big deal. And that is a Arabic-inspired historical fantasy in which a pirate who is retired and is now focused on motherhood, and she's in her 40s, if not 50s. She is given up on piracy and is living just life as it comes. But she's forced back into her old life after a threat to her daughter, and her and her old crew reunite and go on this adventure. And it's just inventive, and the writing was beautiful, and the characters were lovable, and it's an absolute gem. And I think myself and a lot of others are going to be very excited when the sequel comes out. And then we have Saltblood. Saltblood we were all very wary about, because we'd previously read a book about Anne Bonny and Mary Read and all hated it. It was just everything that was wrong with historical fiction. We had a bad time. And so we were a little bit burnt out on those two. So we were wary. But it was just a great historical novel. It was a romp. Like, you just read it so easily. I don't think it's a life-changing book, but if you like historical fiction, you are going to have a good time, especially historical feminist fiction. There's not a lot to say about it, but it does do things well. There's a little magical element, but not too much. And it plays around with gender a bit, so it's a little queer. In fact, it is queer. Let's be real. But it does it all very well, I think. And I think if you like that type of book, you will finish it in no time whatsoever. Um, and then the last one is The Wicked Bargain, which is a young adult fantasy. This one I wasn't expecting to like too much, because I don't read young adult fiction very much. It's not for snobbery reasons. Young adult fiction can be great. I'm not in a stage of my life where I identify with coming of age stories, because I have already come of age. I've come of far too much age, if we're being quite honest. So it's set. It's a South American pirate book about a non-binary trans teen who is struggling to hide their magical ability from the world that will punish them very severely for it. It's not the most subtle metaphor, but let's go with it. Meanwhile, they're on the run because their father made a deal with the devil and was taken. So they are trying to get their father back, and also escape the devil, who believes that he's owed their life. And yeah, it's really good. I really liked the romance in it. It was very sweet, and very fun and believable. And I enjoyed it. It was a solid book with a little bit of capers here and there, and drama, and some characters who were just a lot of fun. So definitely, if any of those appeal to you, I would recommend them. And hopefully I'll be back shortly with 2 more books to recommend if I like the 2 that I'm reading for this book.
Hello, it's me again, just giving you a little update on where we are with the reading. I have finished Pirate Women, and if I sound a little bit vague on the details, I did record a whole thing yesterday about my feelings about it, and then once again realised that the microphone wasn't working, so it's going really well. But we persist. There are going to be little teething issues with this sort of thing, and again, I'm doing this for my own education, for my own development, for my own passion. So if you can please be patient while I deal with the technical stuff, we will get there. And all of these things just have to be learned, and they will be. I'm also getting a new camera very soon, so hopefully that will be a lot easier than recording on my phone, and we will be able to go from there. I'm not on my phone right now, I'm actually on my webcam, but that's a new webcam too, so hopefully it's fine. So Pirate Women, I finished it. It was a little bit of a slog, won't lie to you. yeah, it was so padded. I think that was the issue, that the author had chosen a subject that was inherently, there wasn't any information. You know, there aren't that many pirate women to discuss. The ones that there are incredibly well known already. So a lot of it was subjecture, and a lot of it was sort of feminist discussion of women throughout history, which is again something I'm normally fine with and would happily read it. But it was just so constantly clear that it was padding. And I think that just didn't work. There just wasn't enough. And I wasn't objecting, as some people did, to the fact that she was talking about women who were mainly known as part of myths and stories, and also women who maybe didn't have the traditional role of pirate but were doing piratical things. I was fine with the inclusion of those, but even then there still wasn't enough. And so like she would go off on little random asides about the suffragette movement and things like that that really had nothing to do with the topic at hand. I mean, from a world history perspective, I did find it quite interesting. It discussed some things that I was less familiar with, not knowing much about the history of the seas, for example. I also found that the writing style wasn't as bad or as difficult as some people found it. It was dry, it wasn't pop history, it was history, and I coped with it. But again, it wasn't engaging, but I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. I think it's a book that would have benefited from being pop history, but it didn't have the personality for that. So it was kind of in this weird space where it wasn't pop history and therefore wasn't funny or told with the perspective of, the author's voice. But also it wasn't academic enough to be proper history. You know, it felt like a dissertation at times, especially the constant references to lack of sources. Like, I understand that there's no sources, and I understood going in that why it would be that there were no sources. And I think you can say once, you know, everything in this book is going to be very much based on the problems there are with the way women have been recorded throughout history. That's absolutely fine. But saying that once is fine. As is then saying, you know, for example, we think this about this person, but the only reference we have is something from this source that was flawed for these reasons, like very specific reasons, instead of just constantly being like, here's a story, and followed up by, we don't know anything about this period really, because of the, you know, with the way women have been treated throughout history. And it just kept doing that over and over and over, and it was tiring. So I think it's a good book in theory. It had potential. It wasn't done badly. I think the author just really suffered from not having enough to talk about and not being able to talk about it hugely engagingly. I don't think, you know, it's a bad place to start if you want to know more about piracy in general from a feminist perspective. I don't think it's bad. I do think that if you want sort of in-depth analysis of the actual pirate women we know about, or the stories of pirate women that we know about, there's probably more specific, more detailed places to start. But yes, I finished it. I'm not sorry that I finished it, mainly because it gets a book off my shelf that has been guilting me for some time, because my friend gave me that book about 2 years ago. So I've been wanting it done for ages. What else? So I am about halfway through Running Close to the Wind, which is the next pirate book that I was reading for this video. I'm really needing to push on and get it finished because I am going to be away for Monday for a week. Not doing anything fun. I'm actually dog and house sitting for somebody. So I will be doing a little reading challenge for that. So prepare for my videos, my next video, to be even more wonky and on the go than they have been already, because I'm not in my usual environment. And also I will be trying not to, show off parts of someone else's house, because it's not mine to do that. But yeah, so because of that, I need to get this finished in the next day and a half. So I'm enjoying it, 55% of the way in. I found it a slow read for some reason, even though there's nothing inherently bad about it. I'm having a good time while reading it. I'm not in any way bored or irritated by it, and yet somehow it's just slow going. I don't know why, but so the plot, as I mentioned before, is that the main character Avra is a former ministry official who has stolen some important information on a way of traversing the ocean during the time when these sea creatures mate and make the seas impassable. So this is a hugely valuable piece of information that they've stolen, and they have run off to their old pirate crew, which is captained by their ex, and they are deciding what to do next with that information. And so, sort of, it's one of those books where it can almost be summed up entirely by the phrase, and then shenanigans ensued. Shenanigans is very much the order of the day, and that's good with me. It's a book that's heavy on banter, heavy on dick jokes, heavy on innuendo. It's not particularly smutty. Smut is talked about constantly, sex is talked about constantly, but it's not spicy, I would say. I don't think there has actually been any proper sex scenes in it. There probably will be, I'm not going to lie, but it's not. It's more the fun and joking about it constantly, especially for the main character Avra, who is the horniest creature ever, but in a kind of, wet tomcat kind of way. Yeah, and I'm just really liking it. The main character is funny. The relationships are engaging. Julian, who is the priest on board who has taken a vow of celibacy despite being the horniest creature alive, is so funny and just adorable. Yeah, it's just a good time. The plot wise, it's going along. It's not particularly worried about the plot. It's happening. Things are happening, but we're not really worried about it because the author is clearly having fun bantering and spending time with these characters. And sometimes that doesn't work. In this case, I am enjoying it. We'll have to see how it ends up. I'm a little bit concerned because the last book ended on a way that I was like, great, that's brilliant, that's a good stopping point. Where's my sequel? And then there was no sequel, and I'm a little bit concerned that the author is going to get to a certain point and go, yep, here's a good stopping point, and then there will be no sequel. So a little bit worrying, but we never know. It could go really well. That was my phone bleeping. It could go really well. Or either way, I think that I'm going to enjoy the experience. I'm going to have a fun time with these characters, and have a laugh. And I'm just hoping there are, the delivered spicy scenes that this book has been promising pretty heavily. But if not, it's so much fun, I don't care. I think we're on track for 4 stars or above, but we'll see. For Pirate Women, I gave that 3 stars. Probably useful thing when I'm reviewing a book to tell you what I rated it. I'm new at this, did I not mention? Yeah, I gave Pirate Women 3 stars, which, could be worse, could be better. And sometimes with 3 stars it could be a lot better, and sometimes it could be a lot worse. And in this case, it's even, I'd say, bang on 3 stars, middling, not a lot to say. I'm hoping Running Close to the Wind will be 4 stars or above. We will see. So here we are, back at the end of my very first video. Thank you so much for all your patience with the tech side of things and the
presenting side of things, and just me getting used to it all. And I really hope that if you've found any value in this at all, then any engagement would be wonderful. Just a like, a subscribe, any comment, a nice comment preferably, that would be wonderful. But I totally get it. I'm new to this, and that's always a bit of a wary thing with a new creator. You know, you don't know whether they're going to stick around, whether they're going to put out content you're going to enjoy. Totally get it, but would really appreciate it if you would. But yes, I'm here at the end of the video to talk about Running Close to the Wind, which I've just finished. I really enjoyed it, and it was a 5-star, which is a wonderful way to end my first video. Um, I don't give out 5 stars very often. They're books that generally are going to stay with me for a long time, and that I've found a lot of meaning in, and just sometimes just had a really good time. And this book kind of fell into I just had such a good time. I couldn't not give it a 5-star. So it was a slow middle, I would say that. I was getting a little impatient with the middle of the book, because sort of there was this big setup, and introduced all the characters and all of the chaos at the beginning of the book, and then it kind of just fell into a lull where there was a lot of banter, a lot of talking, and not a lot actually happening, which was not annoying because I was enjoying the banter, but it did start to get to a point where it's like, if something doesn't happen soon, I'm going to get frustrated. But luckily, something did happen. There was a cake competition that had been discussed or mentioned many times throughout the book, so I knew it was going to come back. And the cake competition pretty much makes up the latter third of this book. And oh my god, it was one of the funniest things I've read in years. I mean, I wish I'd been filming myself reading it, because I was howling. I was having like such a good time. It was so funny. And in the author's acknowledgements at the end, she did a whole little piece just talking about Terry Pratchett and her love of Terry Pratchett and the meaning within Terry Pratchett novels. And so I kind of could see that in the writing. It's not Terry Pratchett. It's its own thing, but at the same time, you could definitely see that inspiration. So that, as a big Terry Pratchett fan, really helped. The comedy just worked. The characters, by that point, you just loved them so much that they could have done anything, and I would have enjoyed it. And yeah, the relationship at the end, which I won't spoil for those who want to read it, kind of surprised me, because I think I'd gone into it with a very standard romance mind, like a queer romance, sure, but I'd gone into it thinking these are all the elements and this is how it's going to kind of work out. And it surprised me because I wasn't expecting what actually did happen, and I was liked it all the more for it. And then I'd say, if you want a smutty book, this is a game of two halves for you, because I think this is the smuttiest non-smutty book ever written. There aren't any sex scenes. They are, there is sex, but there's kind of cut away from. You don't see very often. Like there is never a straight up sex scene that you are there witnessing. You know what I mean? But sex is constantly referenced. It is talked about and joked about, and everyone is horny all of the time. But no one is having as much sex as they are talking about, which probably is quite true to life. But yeah, so if you want a book that is constant dick jokes and smutty jokes and constant horniness, but doesn't actually show too much of that, you will enjoy it. And I say it doesn't. I don't. Blah, 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 blah. I say it doesn't show it. I don't mean it in a bad way. Like I didn't go, oh, I really wish I'd seen that. They'd actually lingered on these scenes. I think I could have enjoyed it if the author had, but it didn't lose anything for not showing the sex scenes, and it didn't do it in a way that it felt like it was being coy about it, because like there were constant, like so much talk of sex. I think it would be bizarre if the author had been too shy to actually show it. But it kind of it left the because the sex had been spoken about so much, it felt kind of more intimate at the end to not show it. I think to let it be something that was personal and private and meaningful rather than a joke, you know. So I it kind of worked for me. I won't lie. But yes, I think if you want a fun pirate romp that's like a super sexed version of Our Flag Means Death, I think you will really enjoy this. Um, Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. It's not totally without its weaknesses. I thought one of the main characters, Tev, who was part of the romantic relationship, um, was probably underwritten a little bit. For the first half of the book, you kind of see captain's log diary entries from Tev. And then halfway through they just stop, and then you never hear their point of view ever again, which was a little bit I could see why the author had done it, because the main character Avra is so needy for Tev and so in love and sort of willing to be kicked to the dirt by Tev because of their love for Tev. And it kind of did add that tension to not really know how serious Tev was. And also to then slightly get to, unpack Tev's trauma with their upbringing and their the religious sort of cult that they'd grown up in. I just felt like I just kind of wanted that acknowledgement of Tev's feelings a little bit, to be a little bit more stronger, a little bit less implied. But it didn't stop the book from working. It and Hot Monk Julian continues to be the best thing about it by a country mile. So, yeah, I think you will enjoy this if you like Our Flag Means Death. If you like campy pirate action, go for it. But yeah, that's kind of it. Those are the 2 books I've read for this vlog. Pirate Women, the non-fiction, I enjoyed. It wasn't the best non-fiction I've ever read, but I don't regret reading it in the slightest. And When I Close to the Wind, I'm thrilled that I've read, and it will probably stay on my bookshelves, which is a massive compliment for me. I don't tend to keep books unless I really, really love them. And yeah, that's it. We have reached the end of the pirate video. Thank you so much for joining me for this. I've enjoyed it so much, and even if no one watches it, no one likes it, no one cares about it, I've had fun doing it, and I really feel that I've learned some things and had a good time. So yeah, there's that. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next video.